So do you feel like you lost being in the group? Did you lose like your personality, your autonomy, your own interests and hobbies? Do you feel like who you were was suppressed, and that now coming out, you kind of, I guess, rediscovered yourself again?
Yeah. Suppressed is a really good word. Your true self never fully goes away, because that you are who you are. You have to suppress it, and it's hidden from everyone around you. You change, everyone around you sees it. My coworkers, who at the time I had the same job for several years, so they knew me very well. Everyone at work sees it. Your family sees it. Your friends see it. Your friends start to fade away. Not because you're doing anything. They're not doing anything wrong. It's just because you're changing and pushing them away without realizing it. It's hard because it happens so gradually in a way that you're not aware of it happening until you're fully a whole different person. It feels like you don't realize it's happening. I was a little bit of the black sheep in a way of my church specifically, because I couldn't turn off that human connection. I just couldn't. And so I didn't feel like the rest of them sometimes. I felt like, and then that also stirred something in me where I'm like, am I like, do I not have enough faith? Am I too worldly? Am I, because I wasn't like them. There was a part of me that wasn't, but the rest of it was just all so suppressed. I did completely change as a person. And then being out, it took a while to like even relearn who I was. It made me a better person. But it was also coinciding with me becoming a mom and fighting for my daughter and all the things we were going through. So I'm not sure what was responsible for what, but I definitely went through a major change for the better when I left. I became a better person than I was even before I went in. Probably from what I experienced, and also just being a mom and growing up a little bit. And
so do you feel like you had, you said you feel like it made you a better person in a sense. Did it give you like a sense of peace? Do you think it gave you what, I guess, just hope, or kind of a feeling, a sense of connectedness with God, or any of those sort of things that really, I would think are kind of the basics of what, if religion is true, should offer. But did you feel like you experienced those things in the WMSCOG?
Yeah, the connectedness with God came way later. Like I said, I only started addressing that towards the end of 2020, but I don't think I would have this connection I have now with God if it wasn't for what I experienced in the WMS, because I had to learn what God isn't. I just had no other exposure to Christianity or to religion prior to the WMS, so I had nothing to compare it to. But learning what God's love isn't, but living it for 4.5 years, and then later realizing that that's not what God's love is supposed to feel like. That's not what being a Christian is supposed to feel like. That's not what your relationship with God is supposed to be like. It's not conditional. It's not fear-based. It's not this authoritative, negative, like being in your life at all times where you need to be sorry and be fearful. And of course we fear God naturally, but not in the way that it's like shoved down your throat there. Me having to unlearn things to relearn who God is and what God is, like it definitely opened my eyes up a lot and made my faith probably 10 times stronger than it would have been if I never experienced that. But I had to go through that first.
So yeah, Go ahead.
I forget what the other part of your question was.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's interesting to hear you say that. And so you can, I feel like it's maybe helpful for some people to be able to hear you say something like that, because I would imagine for some people that maybe it's difficult to think about the fact that, for some who have spent literally a decade or more of their life in that group, and then they realize that it's all a sham. And like you're saying, this is not what Christianity is. This is not what a relationship with God is. Or some people just don't even think about those things and they just leave all of it. But I think it would probably be difficult for some people to wrestle with the fact that they've spent so much time and put so much of their lives into that. And so I do think that, it's hopefully encouraging for people to be able to hear you see actually benefits of it. And even in spite of realizing what it is ultimately, you still can see how it was ultimately served a good purpose in your life, and did. I guess Bob Ross, or do you know Bob Ross, the painter?
Yeah.
Something he says while he's painting. That's I just always loved it. He would first paint the black trees, and then after he'd paint like the trees really dark with like a really dark color, so it stood out. And then after that, he goes in with a lighter color and taps in like the highlights. And every time he would do that, almost he would say something about how you have to have darkness for the light to show up, or something like that. And he kind of relate that to how that's kind of how it is in life sometimes, that you have to have the dark things in life for the light aspects to really come forth. And so, just a little wisdom from Bob Ross. It seems like it maybe relates to what you were saying.
It definitely does. All that happened after, I felt really numb for a while. And like I said, my husband, he grew up with very strong faith in, in his family. He was raised in a church. He never pushed it on me, but also he never failed to still encourage me when I was having a hard time, or I was anxious or worried. And he always felt so calm. Like, he's just such a cool, calm and collected kind of guy. But I think some of that is because he has a firm faith in God, and he knows God has his back. So that's something I didn't have at the time. And he always reminded me, God has us. Look where he brought us. He's never failed us before. He's not going to walk away from us now. And I was numb to what he was saying at the time, because I was just so shut off. Like, I couldn't read a Bible verse. I couldn't think about going into a church. Like, it was really hard. But that stuff always resonated with me, because I saw what it did for my husband, and I wanted that. I really wanted that peace in my life. Mm-hmm. I wanted that confidence, and I wanted that calmness. And I didn't have it. And I didn't even have it when I was in the WMS, because that's not the type of love and comfort that they teach you. So seeing my husband and just seeing how solid his faith was in belief in God, and I wanted that. And so me just wanting it, and then the nudge that I needed, that, God planted the seed in my heart to seek him again after I went through everything that I went through. That's all it took. And honestly, after that, I feel like I had to push myself and fight for my faith again after what I went through, because I was just, the walls were solid. And so, like I said, I was continuing to look on your channel and talk to people that were in the church or very familiar with the church on my own time. But also, even the little steps I was taking, I feel like I would meet God 1% and he'd meet me 99% every time. And those moments helped me rebuild my faith, because it was very clear, very, very clear at those times that God was meeting me like 99% of the way, and I could feel him. And that's when I started coming back alive. Like I really started feeling everything growing and just coming back. And it was way different than, like I said, than it felt in WMS. So